Chosen one, a truth concerning you was uncovered, and they're losing their sanity over it. Chosen one, a truth concerning you was uncovered, and the world that tried to bury you is now shaking under the weight of its own lies. For so long, they crafted a story that wasn't yours. They painted a picture of you with poisoned brushes, mixed with envy and deceit. They took fragments of your truth and twisted them until even those who once stood beside you began to doubt what they saw. But the divine has a way of undoing deception. The light always reveals what was done in the dark, and now that light is pouring through every crack they tried to seal. A truth about you, long hidden, long distorted, has risen, and it's burning away illusions like fire to dry grass. You see, chosen one, the universe operates on divine timing. There are seasons when you're silenced and misunderstood, but that silence is not defeat, it is incubation. While they were spreading their lies, you were being refined. While your name was being dragged through mud, your spirit was being polished to mirror divine truth. And now, that truth is reflecting so brightly that those who once mocked you can't bear to look. Someone has seen behind the curtain. Someone who once believed the false story has stumbled upon evidence that changes everything. The narrative they were told no longer matches the facts in front of them. Screenshots, recordings, messages, divine breadcrumbs leading straight to revelation. Every hidden conversation, every whispered betrayal, every secret alliance has surfaced. The universe chose this moment, this hour, to make everything known. And now, those who once called you enemy are sitting in silence, trembling under the realization that they were never the victims, they were the accomplices. The fog that once clouded their judgment has lifted, and what they see terrifies them. They see their own fingerprints on the weapon that wounded you. They see how willingly they believed lies designed to isolate you. They see how they turned against someone who only ever tried to love, uplift, and protect. And the guilt, chosen one, the guilt is devouring them. They can't sleep. Their minds replay every moment, every rumor spread, every eye roll behind your back, every time they laughed at your expense. They can't escape it because truth echoes louder than lies, and the echo is growing stronger. Understand this. When divine justice moves, it doesn't knock softly. It enters like a storm, washing away everything false, uprooting every mask. You were never meant to fight your own battles in the same way they fought theirs. You were meant to stand still and let the divine expose what needed exposing. You are not just a person, you are a lesson wrapped in skin. Every betrayal against you becomes a curriculum for those who thought they could play with sacred things. Every lie told about you becomes a mirror showing the liar who they truly are. That is the power of the chosen. You don't have to lift a sword when heaven itself fights for you. Right now, the very people who joined forces to discredit you are turning against each other. Paranoia has replaced their confidence. The same alliance that once felt unbreakable is now crumbling under suspicion. They whisper among themselves, questioning who leaked what, who saved the messages, who recorded the call. And while they are busy tearing each other apart, your name is being restored by forces far beyond human reach. Every secret they thought would never surface is now evidence in the court of divine truth. What was hidden in private has been shouted in spirit. They are losing their grip, chosen one, because truth is oxygen, and liars cannot breathe in it. Do you know why this revelation came now? Because your heart healed enough to witness it without hate. Because vengeance no longer lived in your veins. Because you were ready to watch the scales balance without needing to control the outcome. That's what makes you powerful, your restraint. They mistook your silence for weakness, your forgiveness for foolishness, but heaven saw it differently. Heaven saw discipline. Heaven saw faith. Heaven saw someone who trusted divine timing so completely that retaliation was never an option. And that trust became your shield. That patience became your weapon. That humility became your access point to supernatural justice. The truth concerning you, chosen one, is not just about clearing your name, it's about revealing your purpose. The exposure happening now is not random. It's alignment. The lies that once defined you to others are being stripped away so the world can finally see who you were always meant to be. And as the mask falls from their faces, your true light shines unhindered. You've become evidence that integrity outlasts illusion. Every accusation they built against you is now collapsing under the weight of proof. Those who believed the false version of you are now forced to face the real one, calm, radiant, unbothered, unbroken. That alone drives your enemies mad because it proves their spells, gossip, and schemes failed. They are losing their sanity, not because of what was found, but because of what can't be undone. Once truth is seen, it can't be unseen. Once exposure begins, it cannot be stopped. They're watching their fabricated reality disintegrate, and they can't rebuild it. The lies don't make sense anymore. The timelines don't align. Their stories contradict. Their evidence collapses under scrutiny. And deep down, they know, they played with divine order. They touched something sacred when they tried to distort your destiny. That realization carries weight heavier than punishment. It carries the haunting awareness that karma is not coming, it's already here. Chosen one, understand this moment is not about revenge, it's about revelation. The divine doesn't destroy people, it dismantles illusions. The ones who plotted against you are being confronted by themselves. Their punishment is their own reflection. Every manipulation, every deceitful word, every stolen resource is being replayed to them in vivid clarity. The energy they sent toward you has boomeranged back, amplified. They are haunted not by you, but by the parts of themselves they refuse to acknowledge. That's why their minds are unraveling. That's why their peace has evaporated. You were their test, and they failed it publicly. This exposure is divine theater. The universe writes its own scripts, and this chapter has your restoration written all over it. You are the one whose truth couldn't be buried, whose light couldn't be dimmed, whose destiny couldn't be hijacked. You were chosen for this because you represent what happens when purity is attacked but doesn't break. You are proof that protection exists, even in silence. Every time they thought they had you cornered, the universe quietly shifted the board. Every time they celebrated your downfall, heaven was setting up your return. Now, look at what's unfolding: messages leaked, emails discovered, receipts found. Their own words have become their undoing. The ones who mocked you are now being mocked by fate. The ones who dismissed you are now desperate to clear their names. The very people who called you delusional are now being called deceitful. The circle has turned, and it's perfect. Because divine justice doesn't miss a single detail. Not one word, not one act, not one thought escapes balance. And while all this chaos brews around you, you are at peace. You can feel the shift in the atmosphere, that calm after the storm that tells you something greater has taken over. The heavy energy that once followed you has lifted. The anxiety that clung to your spirit has dissolved. That's how you know the truth is working. You no longer have to defend yourself. You no longer have to explain what really happened. The evidence speaks. The energy speaks. The outcome speaks. And the ones who used to look down on you are now looking up, wondering how you survived the very traps they fell into. It's simple. You were never fighting flesh and blood. Your battle was spiritual, and your victory was inevitable. What was sent to break you built you. What was meant to silence you gave you voice. What was designed to humiliate you positioned you for honor. You are walking proof that no dark energy, no gossip, no manipulation can override divine favor. Your enemies tried to rewrite your story, but they forgot, you are not the author. The pen was never in their hands. The pen was in the hands of destiny, and destiny just flipped the page. Now, they watch in disbelief as everything they built on falsehood collapses. Their alliances crumble. Their reputations fracture. Their masks disintegrate under the pressure of exposure. They can't comprehend how it all slipped through their fingers, how the lies they told so confidently now betray them. But you understand. You've seen this before. Divine order balancing what human hands tried to control. You know that no matter how long deception lasts, it always self-destructs. Lies age poorly. Truth is eternal. Chosen one, don't waste your energy looking back. Let the divine do the talking. Your restoration is already in motion. The people meant to see your name cleared are seeing it. The opportunities that were blocked are reopening. The relationships that were broken by lies are being healed or replaced with better ones. Your path is illuminated again, brighter than before, because now your steps are protected by the lessons you've learned. You know who you are. You know what you carry. And most importantly, you know what you'll never tolerate again. This is your emergence season, the unveiling. The same mouths that curse you are now forced to speak your truth. The same hands that tried to suppress you are now trembling with regret. The same people who dismiss your intuition are now realizing you were right all along. The tables haven't just turned, the entire room has rotated in your favor. What once disempowered you now empowers you. What once silenced you now amplifies your voice. And what once broke you has become the foundation of your strength. So stand tall, chosen one. This is your divine confirmation. You don't need to seek validation. You are the validation. You don't need to prove innocence. Innocence proves itself. You don't need to chase justice. Justice has already found you. The truth concerning you was uncovered, and that truth is transforming everything it touches. It's not just restoring your name, it's resetting the balance of every spiritual debt owed to you. Every tear you cried, every humiliation you endured, every false accusation you bore, it's all returning multiplied in your favor. Remember this, your enemies didn't underestimate your strength, they underestimated your protection. They forgot that divine energy doesn't lose battles. They thought they could curse what heaven had blessed, bind what destiny had freed, destroy what purpose had sealed. But no spell can override divine decree. No deception can withstand spiritual light. The same divine force that allowed them to touch you for a season is the same force that exposed them in due time. They were never in control. The puppet master has lost the strings. Chosen one, this revelation is your vindication, but it's also your initiation. The truth revealed about you has opened doors that were locked by lies. You are stepping into visibility not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through silence, endurance, and faith. The world will now see you as heaven always saw you, radiant, chosen, unstoppable. Let the light finish its work. Let the exposure continue. Let the divine make a spectacle of what was meant to destroy you. Because this moment isn't punishment, it's prophecy fulfilled. They're losing their sanity because your peace is proof of divine favor. Your calm is their confusion. Your rise is their reckoning. And as the world adjusts to this unveiled truth, remember, you don't need to say a word. The truth concerning you was uncovered, and that truth is doing all the talking. You are the evidence that no darkness can outlast divine order. You are the reminder that every lie carries an expiration date. And you are the living prophecy that the chosen always win, not by force, but by light. So breathe easy now. The storm has passed. The truth has spoken. And every falsehood that once surrounded your name is dissolving into dust. You are seen. You are vindicated. You are free. Because the truth concerning you was uncovered, and they're losing their sanity over it. Someone finally saw behind the curtain, the real you, not the distorted image your enemies created. For the longest time, chosen one, the world was content with a lie. They were content to believe the version of you crafted from shadows, pieced together from whispers, distortions, and projections of their own brokenness. They saw you through the fog of gossip, through the lens of envy, through stories told by those who could not stand the light you carried. They didn't see your heart, only the illusion your enemies so carefully constructed. But the divine has a way of ensuring that truth never stays hidden forever. And now, that veil has been torn. Someone has finally seen behind the curtain. The illusion has shattered. The performance has ended. The truth of who you are, radiant, resilient, and real, stands undeniable. You were never what they said you were. You were never the villain in their story. You were the one who loved deeply, gave freely, trusted too easily, and forgave too quickly. And for that, they tried to make you the fool. They couldn't comprehend your purity because it exposed their corruption. They couldn't stand your light because it revealed their shadows. So they created another version of you, one they could control, one they could condemn without guilt. They twisted your kindness into weakness, your silence into guilt, your empathy into manipulation. Every time you tried to explain yourself, they added another layer to the lie. Every truth you spoke became another thread in their web of deception. But divine order doesn't tolerate distortion forever. What's built on deceit always collapses under the weight of truth. And now it's happening. The curtain that once hid you has been pulled back by divine hands. Someone, maybe the one who once believed every lie, has seen what was never meant to be seen by them. They've glimpsed the truth your enemies feared. Maybe it came through a mistake, a message read by accident, a conversation overheard, a pattern too obvious to ignore. Or maybe it was supernatural, an intuition, a dream, a sudden knowing that shattered the illusion like glass. However it came with divine precision. Because the time for masks is over. The time for exposure has arrived. Imagine their shock, chosen one. Imagine the silence that follows when the truth hits like thunder. The one who thought they knew you suddenly realizing they never did. The one who once judged you now feeling the sting of shame. The one who once avoided you now drawn by remorse. Because what they're seeing isn't just evidence, it's energy. Your true energy. The quiet strength that remained even when you were broken. The integrity that held you steady when you were misunderstood. The love that never curdled into bitterness, even when betrayal was your daily bread. That's what they're seeing now, the real you. The you that refused to crumble when everyone else did. The you that kept praying for those who curse your name. The you that never stopped believing in the divine plan, even when it made no sense. Your enemies never expected this moment. They thought the lies would live forever, that your silence would keep them safe. They thought no one would ever look behind the curtain. But light has a funny way of slipping through cracks. Every manipulation, every false story, every exaggerated tale they spun, it's all unraveling thread by thread. Someone started asking questions. Someone started comparing timelines. Someone started feeling the inconsistency between who you were said to be and who you really are. And the moment that realization hit, the spell broke. The lies lost their power. The energy shifted in your favor. You didn't have to fight for this moment. You didn't have to scream your innocence from rooftops. All you had to do was stand in integrity, hold your peace, and let divine timing do what divine timing does best, reveal. The revelation was inevitable. You were never meant to stay hidden forever. You were never meant to live under the shadow of their narrative. You were meant to be revealed, in truth, in light, in purity. And now that moment has arrived. The same voices that spread falsehoods are now trembling, realizing that their words have become their own undoing. The same hands that pointed an accusation now shake with guilt. Chosen one, the truth that has been uncovered is more than vindication, it's liberation. It frees not only you, but also those who were bound by deception. It forces those who believe the illusion to confront the darkness within themselves, the parts that wanted to believe evil about someone pure. It forces them to ask why they were so quick to condemn, why they found comfort in your pain, why they needed your fall to feel tall. That's what divine justice does. It exposes not just the liar, but the listener. It reveals how many participated in your crucifixion. And now, those who cheered when you were misunderstood are silent, faces pale, hearts racing, because truth has turned its gaze directly upon them. The real you, the healer, the empath, the visionary, was never gone. You were simply hidden for protection. The divine covered you in shadows while your enemies played their games because premature visibility would have meant premature destruction. You were being protected in obscurity while lies flourished in the spotlight. But the light has shifted now. The divine has decided it's time for you to be seen. Not as they painted you, but as you truly are, the one who rises without revenge, the one who glows without gloating, the one who teaches through quiet resilience. Now that the truth is out, watch how energy changes. People who once looked down on you begin to speak your name with reverence. Those who ignored your worth will pretend they always knew. And those who tried to bury you will start digging up excuses instead. But you don't have to respond. You don't have to say, "I told you so." Your existence is your testimony. Your peace is your proof. Your elevation is your revenge. Because the chosen don't need to fight for visibility. They become visibility. Understand this. The truth being revealed about you isn't small. It's shaking foundations. It's undoing alliances. It's destroying false narratives that held power over entire groups of people. You were the center of a lie that stretched wide, and now that the truth has surfaced, everything built on that lie must collapse. That's why the panic is spreading. That's why people are losing their composure. The exposure doesn't just clear your name, it exposes theirs. And they know it. They can feel it. Their hearts are racing because divine truth doesn't knock politely. It enters like fire. You were never meant to defend yourself against their darkness. You were meant to outlast it. And you did. You stood firm, rooted in faith, while storms of slander surrounded you. You kept your soul pure when every reason existed to become bitter. You kept walking when they blocked your path. You kept believing when no one believed in you. That's why the divine chose this moment, because you earned it through endurance. Your breakthrough is not luck, it's law. The law of spiritual balance. The law that declares that no falsehood can remain forever in the presence of light. Now the curtain lies shredded at your feet. What was once hidden is now exposed. What was once twisted is now straightened. What was once dark has been illuminated. Someone has finally seen the real you, and that changes everything. They see the compassion you carried when you were mocked. They see the truth you spoke when no one listened. They see the patience you showed when cruelty was your reward. They see the warrior who never picked up a weapon, yet still won the war. Chosen one, let them see. Let them watch as the divine finishes what it started. You don't need to justify yourself. You've been justified by revelation. You don't need to rebuild your reputation. Truth is doing that for you. You don't need to chase those who doubted you. They are already finding their way back, humbled by what they've learned. Your only task now is to stay aligned with your light. Continue walking in grace. Continue shining with compassion. Because the same light that exposed their lies will now elevate your truth. They saw behind the curtain, and now they can't unsee. The illusion is dead. The performance is over. And what remains is the unshakable truth of who you are, chosen, protected, destined. No rumor can touch you now. No weapon can pierce you. No light can define you. The truth has claimed you, and the divine has confirmed you. And that, chosen one, is why they fear you. Because the mask is gone, the truth is alive, and the real you has finally been revealed, unstoppable, untouchable, undeniable. Because someone finally saw behind the curtain, and what they found changed everything. Screenshots, recordings, emails, undeniable proof. The puppet master just lost control of their strings. It always begins in silence. The kind of silence that hides scheming hands, whispered lies, and rehearsed performances. For months, maybe even years, they pulled the strings, thinking themselves untouchable. The puppet master smiled while chaos unfolded, believing that no one would ever see the fingerprints behind the scenes. But truth has patience, chosen one. It doesn't rush. It collects evidence in stillness. It waits until every string is tangled in its own deceit. And now, that time has come. Screenshots. Recordings. Emails. Receipts that cannot be rewritten or deleted. The proof has surfaced, and the puppet master is watching their empire of illusion collapse, thread by thread. For the longest time, they manipulated perception like an artist paints on canvas. They controlled conversations, twisted narratives, and planted seeds of doubt in fertile minds. They convinced others to dance to their rhythm while pretending to be the victim, the savior, the misunderstood one. They wore sincerity like a mask and charm like armor. They thought themselves clever, too calculated to get caught. But every word spoken in the dark echoes in divine light. Every plot conceived in secrecy eventually meets exposure. And now, their secrets are laid bare, not through hearsay, but through undeniable evidence. They used to speak with such confidence, didn't they? So sure of their version of the story, so certain that no one would ever find the truth. But the divine has a way of gathering the fragments, the forgotten screenshots, the unsent drafts, the deleted messages that somehow reappeared. Proof that speaks louder than any accusation. Evidence that cannot be silenced by manipulation or denied by charm. The very tools they used to deceive have become their undoing. Technology became the mirror they could not escape. Someone, somewhere, started paying attention. Maybe it was the person they underestimated, the quiet observer who noticed the inconsistencies. Maybe it was the universe aligning the right eyes to the right evidence at the right time. Either way, the truth began to leak, first in whispers, then in floods. The screenshots that once lived hidden in a private folder are now circulating. The recordings once tucked away for safety are now being heard by those who need to hear them. The emails, once carefully crafted with manipulation, are now dissected line by line. Each word exposes the intent behind the performance. Each timestamp confirms the orchestration of deceit. The puppet master built their control on two things: secrecy and illusion. Now both have been destroyed. Their strings, those emotional manipulations, those fear tactics, those alliances built on gossip and falsehood, have snapped. The puppets they once controlled are awakening, realizing they were never free, only guided by deceit. The air is changing. Conversations are shifting. People are comparing notes, connecting dots, and realizing the pattern that once hid in plain sight. The power dynamic has inverted. The one who once controlled perception is now at the mercy of exposure. Chosen one, do you feel it? The shift in the atmosphere? That's justice breathing. That's divine equilibrium being restored. The same mouths that doubted you are now trembling with questions. The same hands that pointed at you are now scrolling through evidence, realizing the truth they ignored. They are beginning to see that the person they trusted most was the architect of their confusion. And as this realization spreads, the puppet master's world begins to crumble. Not because you sought revenge, but because truth always avenges itself. For so long, you endured character assassination without defense. You stayed silent while they narrated your story. You prayed while they plotted. You trusted divine timing when it looked like you were losing. But now the divine is vindicating you in ways no human strategy could. The proof speaks for itself. The evidence carries its own voice, calm, factual, and devastatingly clear. The lies that once seemed unshakable now dissolve under the weight of truth. The puppet master's web has become their own trap. Imagine the scene now, the once confident manipulator pacing, sweating, realizing that the evidence they thought was erased still lives. Their messages, their voice notes, their carefully worded emails, all preserved. Every manipulation, every contradiction, every calculated move archived by the very technology they trusted. Their eyes widen as they scroll through the evidence, understanding too late that control was never truly theirs. Control belongs to the divine. And divine order has just delivered its proof. They will try to spin it at first. They always do. They'll call it out of context, claim it's been edited, or insist That's not what I meant. But their panic gives them away. The trembling voice, the frantic messages, the desperate attempts to regain control, it all reveals what they've been hiding. The calm ones are no longer calm. The confident ones are now erratic. The illusion is crumbling in real time. And every person who once followed their lead is now turning around, asking the same question. How could we have been so blind? That's how divine exposure works. It doesn't just reveal the lie. It restores clarity to those who were under its influence. The puppets are awakening, realizing they were never truly choosing for themselves. They were reacting to carefully planted narratives, emotionally steered by someone who fed off division and control. But no longer. The strings are gone. The air feels lighter. The confusion is lifting. And as it does, your truth, long buried under layers of falsehood, begins to rise like dawn breaking over the ruins of a dark night. You, chosen one, were never meant to fight this with words or confrontation. You were meant to let truth be your defender. And that's exactly what's happening. The proof is your armor now. Every file, every message, every timestamp, it all stands as silent testimony of who was truthful and who was deceitful. You don't need to explain anything. The evidence does the talking. The divine has handed you visible justice, not as vengeance, but as restoration. It clears your name, exposes the corruption, and rebalances what was thrown out of order. Watch how people start switching sides. Watch how the same voices that once joined in your defamation now whisper apologies in private. Watch how they suddenly remember your kindness, your patience, your silence when they accused you. They'll start saying, "I always had a feeling something was off," or, "I didn't know the full story." They'll try to rewrite their involvement to ease their guilt. But you don't need their validation anymore. The truth has already validated you. The divine has already confirmed what your intuition always knew, that you were never the villain. You were the test. The puppet master's greatest loss isn't reputation, it's control. Without control, they have nothing. Their ego starves without attention. Their schemes crumble without obedience. Their manipulation fails without belief. They are watching everything they built fall apart because it was built on deceit. And as it collapses, they're forced to face the one thing they've always feared most, themselves. No more hiding behind puppets. No more pulling strings from shadows. They stand exposed before the same truth they mocked. But you, chosen one, stand differently. You stand in quiet power. You don't celebrate their fall. You honor the restoration of truth. Because your victory isn't about their defeat, it's about divine balance returning. It's about freedom from lies, closure from confusion, and peace after chaos. The proof didn't just expose them, it liberated you. It cleared the fog, restored your credibility, and reminded everyone that truth always wins, even when it takes time. Now, every screenshot, every recording, every email is sacred evidence of divine timing. Proof that heaven was watching. Proof that nothing hidden stays hidden forever. Proof that every injustice carries a timestamp for revelation. This isn't coincidence, it's orchestration. The same hands that let you endure the fire have now brought you into vindication. The same silence that once felt like abandonment has now become your greatest protection. Because had the truth come out earlier, it might have been dismissed. But now, in this divine hour, it is undeniable. The puppet master's reign is over. The strings lie severed at their feet. The masks have melted under the heat of exposure. And the audience, once captivated by illusion, now sees the stage for what it truly was, a performance built on lies. You, chosen one, were never the fool. You were the prophecy fulfilled. You were the light that made deception impossible to sustain. So stand tall. Let the evidence speak. Let the divine finish the cleanup. You don't need to prove what's already proven. The proof itself has become your exoneration, your redemption, your rise. Because the moment undeniable truth appears, every puppet collapses, every liar stutters, and every manipulator meets the mirror they can no longer avoid. The strings are gone. The stage is empty. And you, the one they tried to silence, stand as the living truth they could not destroy. It was like being under a spell, manipulation so deep, red flags became invisible. It didn't happen all at once, chosen one. That's the thing about spiritual deception. It arrives disguised as safety. It enters through kindness, through laughter, through the illusion of understanding. They didn't walk into your life waving a warning sign. No, they came cloaked in familiarity, in empathy, in perfect timing. They studied what you lacked and mirrored it back to you like a promise. You thought you had found peace, but what you found was a spell, an energy designed to hypnotize, to drain, to control. You didn't know it then, but you were being taught the anatomy of illusion. At first, everything felt magnetic. They spoke your language, echoed your pain, completed your sentences. It felt divine, as if fate had placed them there to heal what others had broken. You felt seen, heard, validated. But behind that mirror of connection was calculation. Each compliment was a hook. Each confession was bait. They wanted access, not to your heart, but to your energy, your influence, your essence. You were the light they could not create on their own, so they learned how to feed on yours. They didn't love you, chosen one. They studied you. They mapped your emotions, your triggers, your needs. They learned how to pull your empathy like strings. That's why the red flags weren't visible. Because the manipulation wasn't loud, it was subtle, spiritual, psychological. It wasn't the kind of darkness you could see. It was the kind that wrapped itself in light. They didn't yell, they whispered. They didn't hit, they hinted. They didn't destroy all at once, they dismantled you piece by piece. A compliment one day, a criticism the next. Validation followed by withdrawal. Every gesture meant to confuse the compass of your intuition until north and south felt the same. You started doubting your own perception. You started apologizing for your own boundaries. You started mistaking exhaustion for love. It was a spell, not in the mystical sense alone, but in the psychological sense. A trance woven from words, gestures, and perfectly timed silences. You didn't even know you were losing yourself because it felt like connection. You thought compromise was love. You thought empathy was loyalty. But every time you gave more of yourself, you felt emptier. You thought that was just the cost of caring deeply. It wasn't. It was the cost of manipulation. They had you under their rhythm, chosen one, a rhythm designed to keep you chasing. When they gave affection, it was intense, almost divine. When they withdrew, it was cold, almost deadly. And that contrast kept you trapped. You thought if you just worked harder, loved deeper, explained better, they'd return to the warmth you once knew. But that warmth was never real. It was bait. They wanted to keep you hooked on the possibility of them, not the reality of them. You started noticing cracks, but each time you questioned them, they spun the story back to you. You're overthinking. You're too sensitive. You're making things up. Slowly, your confidence began to erode. You stopped trusting your intuition. You started filtering your emotions through their approval. You gave them the keys to your peace, thinking you were maintaining harmony. But in truth, you were handing over control. That's the mark of deep manipulation. It convinces you that your silence is strength, your exhaustion is loyalty, and your confusion is love. The spell kept you captive, but not because you were weak. You stayed because you believed in potential. You saw light where there was only shadow. You felt compassion for their wounds, unaware they were weaponizing them. You thought healing them would heal the connection. But what you didn't realize was that they never wanted healing, they wanted power. They needed to keep you in a loop of rescuing and repenting, giving and guessing, hoping and hurting. And so you danced to the music of their control, believing it was love's rhythm. Every now and then, your soul would whisper, "Something isn't right." But you silenced it, thinking it was fear. You told yourself you were overreacting. You believed what they told you, that you were lucky to have them, that no one else would understand you, that leaving would mean betrayal. They isolated you gently, not by force, but by influence. You started doubting everyone else's motives while justifying theirs. You thought that was loyalty. It wasn't. It was programming. And yet, even under the spell, your light never died. Somewhere deep within you, divine truth kept flickering, a small flame of knowing that something about this was wrong. It whispered in dreams, in moments of silence, in flashes of memory where you remembered who you were before the confusion. And one day, the illusion cracked. It didn't take a loud event, sometimes it's just a quiet moment of clarity. A phrase they repeated too many times. A contradiction you could no longer ignore. A shift in energy that revealed the mask. Suddenly you saw everything, the manipulation, the emotional conditioning, the lies hidden inside. "I love you." The spell broke. And when it did, the world looked different. The colors came back. The fog lifted. The exhaustion you thought was normal disappeared. You realized how much energy you had been giving away. You realized how much of yourself you had buried just to be accepted. You looked at the red flags that once felt invisible, and they now blazed in neon. You wondered how you didn't see them sooner. But don't judge yourself for that. The spell was designed to blind you. The depth of manipulation you endured is a testament not to your weakness, but to your capacity for love. They targeted you because of your light, not your flaws. They sensed your empathy, your loyalty, your ability to forgive, and they saw an opportunity to control. But what they didn't anticipate was that divine protection never truly left you. Even while under the spell, the universe was taking notes. Every moment of confusion was recorded. Every tear was counted. Every betrayal was witnessed. And when the right time came, the same divine energy that allowed you to experience the lesson began pulling you out of it. The spell was broken not by revenge, but by awakening. Now you see clearly. You see how manipulation operates, how it flatters, isolates, and drains. You see how control hides behind care. You see how your empathy can be both your greatest gift and your greatest vulnerability. But now that you see, you will never unsee. You will never again mistake chaos for connection, intensity for intimacy, or confusion for love. You are awake now. You are aware. And awareness is the end of every spell. You may feel grief for the time lost, for the version of yourself that believed so deeply in something that wasn't real. But don't linger in regret. You didn't lose yourself, you were refined. What was taken from you in deceit is being restored in truth. Your intuition is sharper now. Your discernment is divine. You no longer ignore the quiet whispers of your soul. You no longer trade peace for approval. You no longer confuse being needed with being valued. That's what this season of revelation is about, recovering your vision. Seeing through energy instead of words. Reading intention instead of excuses. Feeling truth instead of hearing promises. You've walked through the illusion, and you've come out purified. You've learned that real love doesn't confuse. Real connection doesn't deplete. Real loyalty doesn't require blindness. So, chosen one, forgive yourself for not seeing the red flags. They were invisible by design. Manipulation this deep is an art form, one that only fails when light finally enters the cracks. And that light was always you. You broke the spell not by fighting, but by remembering. Remembering who you are. Remembering your worth. Remembering that your peace is sacred. Now the puppet strings that once held your heart lie broken. The energy that once drained you has no access. The manipulator's power has dissolved because it depended on your belief, and you no longer believe in the illusion. You've reclaimed your mind, your energy, your truth. You are not who you were before, you are wiser, stronger, freer. What once blinded you now teaches you. What once trapped you now empowers you. The spell that silenced your intuition has become the reason your discernment roars. You've walked through manipulation and emerged with mastery. The red flags are no longer invisible. They are radiant signals of your intuition's strength. And now, chosen one, no spell can ever touch you again. Because you've seen what illusion looks like when it wears love's disguise. You've learned that true power doesn't control, it liberates. True love doesn't confuse, it clarifies. And true light doesn't blind, it reveals. The spell is broken. The illusion has ended. And the one who once couldn't see now sees everything, perfectly, powerfully, prophetically. Your enemy studies people like prey. They mirror, they love bomb, they drain. They don't hunt with weapons, chosen one. They hunt with energy, with words, with sympathy, with illusion. They don't come charging at you with rage or cruelty, not at first. They approach softly, like a breeze that feels harmless, even refreshing. They study the way you breathe when you're vulnerable, the tone of your voice when you speak truth, the stories that make your eyes dim or brighten. They are observers, architects of false connection. To them, every human is an experiment, every heart a code to be cracked, every soul an opportunity to feed. They are meticulous, patient, deliberate, and what they crave is power disguised as affection. When your enemy studies you, they aren't looking to know you, they're looking to become you. They learn your strengths not to celebrate them, but to mimic them. They observe your empathy so they can reproduce it just enough to gain your trust. They listen to your dreams so they can reflect them back, pretending alignment. That's how mirroring begins. It's not admiration, it's infiltration. They build a mask from fragments of your own soul, piecing together a version of themselves that feels safe to you. You think you've met a kindred spirit, someone who understands your depth. But what you've met is your own reflection, crafted by someone who has no reflection of their own. Love bombing is their opening act. It's the performance that captures your attention before the trap is sprung. It's the flood of affection, the constant messages, the exaggerated praise. You're unlike anyone I've ever met. No one has ever understood me the way you do. You're special. You're rare. You're mine. It feels intoxicating, divine even. Your nervous system mistakes intensity for connection. You confuse urgency for destiny. But what's happening is psychological conditioning. The predator is teaching you what reward feels like, so they can later control you through its withdrawal. The attention they give is not love, it's leverage. Every compliment is a test. Every confession you share becomes ammunition. They're not listening to heal, they're listening to harvest. Every time you open up, they take notes. Your wounds, your fears, your insecurities, your longings. They memorize them with surgical precision. The same tenderness you think you're receiving is reconnaissance. You are not being loved, you are being profiled. And yet, because you are light, you want to believe. You think maybe this is what real understanding feels like. You've known betrayal, so the sudden affection feels redemptive. You've known loneliness, so the flood of attention feels healing. But this is the illusion, chosen one. Darkness doesn't come as darkness. It comes disguised as what you've prayed for. It imitates the divine so that when it drains you, you blame yourself for not being grateful. Once you're invested, the shift begins. The same person who couldn't stop praising you now begins to criticize you in subtle ways. You're too emotional. You're overreacting. You've changed. What they're really saying is that your discernment is waking up. They can feel your soul resisting the manipulation, so they start destabilizing your confidence. They drip-feed doubt, making you question your perceptions. When you finally start pulling away, they switch tactics again. Another wave of affection, another apology, another promise to change. You start to think maybe it's not manipulation, maybe it's just complicated love. But it's not. It's control, calculated through cycles of idealization and devaluation. The enemy doesn't destroy you all at once. They drain you slowly, carefully, with the precision of someone siphoning energy drop by drop. They don't need to take your money, they take your focus. They don't need to take your home, they take your peace. They don't need to take your body, they take your sense of safety within it. You start waking up tired. You start overthinking every word. You start apologizing for existing. That's how you know the draining has begun. When your enemy mirrors you, they don't just copy your behaviors, they steal your light. They recreate your essence so convincingly that even others begin to confuse who's real and who's performing. They might even turn people against you using your own traits. They become the kind one, the honest one, the misunderstood one, while painting you as the opposite. It's psychological inversion, the dark pretending to be light, the manipulator posing as the victim. This is why people fall for them. They wear your reflection as armor, using your goodness as camouflage. They drain because they cannot generate. Light is a resource they don't possess. Compassion is an emotion they can only mimic. Inspiration is an energy they can only borrow. So, they attach themselves to chosen ones, those whose connection to divine source is unbreakable. They need you more than they'll ever admit. Your presence regulates their chaos. Your faith stabilizes their emptiness. Your energy fuels their survival. But the more they take, the more they expose themselves. Because when darkness feeds on light, the contrast always gives it away.